Welcome to Italian Innovators. I hope you're enjoying the episodes and the lessons. If so, don't forget to click the subscribe button here below. Thanks for watching and let me know what you think about the video in the comments. Buona visione! Sometimes Italians work out their issues over a meal. A meal is an occasion to share life, a moment to look each other in the eyes, a time to debate, and a fertile terrain for forming new friendships or partnerships. The lunch break for many Italian professionals is not just a moment to relax and recharge, but rather an unstructured time to bond, test loyalties, brainstorm ideas, or share plans. It's quite a fascinating ritual, I assure you. Today, I want to talk to you about a particular meal that forged a unique Italian story. The year is 1952 at the restaurant Cavallino San Marziano in the Piedmontese city of Tortona. Two entrepreneurs finally meet over lunch after years of failed attempts. One, Battista Farina, is a renowned automobile designer from Turin, and the other, Enzo Ferrari, is a car maker from Modena 5 years into his business. With them, there is Battista's 26-year-old son Sergio, the master negotiator, who had chosen Tortona as a neutral ground for the meeting, halfway between Turin and Modena, and who had managed to mediate his father's and Ferrari's resistance by convincing each of them separately that the encounter was the product of their own merit. That lunch was a long time in the making, Sergio will recall years later. But as soon as Battista and Enzo shook hands, their diffidence rapidly vanished, replaced by an immediate spark of understanding and reciprocal enthusiasm over their conversation. That meal led to one of Italy's longest and most successful industrial partnerships. As I mentioned, at the time Battista Farina, or Pinin Farina, as I will explain later, was a successful coach builder. After World War II, he had rebuilt his company and positioned it in the global market. In the late 1940s, despite the fact that Italian and German brands were prohibited from exposing their products in France, Battista had made a splash at the Automobile Salon of Paris. With his son Sergio, a college student who was starting to get involved with the family business, he had driven from Turin to the French capital just to park their respective cars, a Lancia and an Alfa Romeo, in front of the Grand Palais at 6 a.m. so that everybody entering could see them. Needless to say, their strategy won everybody over, to the point that even the Parisian newspaper Le Figaro ended up celebrating that darn Pininfarina, ce diable de Pininfarina. In 1951, the year before meeting with Ferrari, Farina had also authored his first American car, the two-seat Nash Haley, capitalizing on the popularity he had gained during several trips to the United States in the 1920s and 1930s. As we discussed in the episode dedicated to Ferrari, in the same post-war years, Enzo, a former pilot and mechanic, had started his Scuderia racing team. In 1947, he had released his first model, the Ferrari 125S, and in 1952, he had prototyped the 250 GT, which would later become a signature model. At that point, though, he was still a small car manufacturer, even though his competitive spirit and his ansia realizzatrice, drive to achieve, would later lead his company to be Italy's most recognizable brand. Getting back to the Tortona meal, that lunch began the extraordinary collaboration between Farina and Ferrari, which over the following decades would produce some of the most astonishing cars of the 20th century. From the first model in 1952, the 212 Intercabriolet Ferrari, Pininfarina would go on authoring masterpieces like the Ferrari Dino, dedicated to Enzo's deceased son, the Ferrari Testarossa, embodying the eccentric spirit of the 1980s, or the Ferrari 456 in the 1990s. Battista's son Sergio and Ferrari's delegate Luca Cordero di Montezemolo will continue this industrial partnership into the 21st century, modeling the transformation of Ferrari from a racing team to a luxury brand, and Pininfarina from a coachmaker to a globally acclaimed design firm. In order to understand the model of Pininfarina's success over 3 generations, from Battista to Sergio and now to his grandson Paolo, we have to go back to the company's origins in the early 20th century and the cultural vision of its founder. Battista Farina grew up working in his brother's body shop. He was known as Pinin, little one in Piedmontese dialect, because he was small in stature and the 10th of 11 children. Over the years, starting from age 12, he patiently learned the art of bodywork. As for the Italian tradition of coachmaking in the 18th and 19th centuries, bodywork is also a craft that requires experience, constant adjustment, and keen observation. Whether for a horse-drawn car or an automobile, coachmaking requires attention to detail, zeal for functionality, and superb manual work. It might surprise you, but even today, much of Pininfarina's bodywork is actually done by hand. According to this model, perfection of realization is achieved through attention as a lively realization of something, and careful execution as the ability to realize a concept or give shape to a lifestyle. Against this background, the genius of Pinin consisted in relating the Italian tradition of coachmaking and his bodywork know-how to the industrial development of cars, and later on in seeing the automobile as the technical and aesthetic expression of modernity itself. In 1912, when he was only 19, Farina designed the first affordable car in the pioneering age of automobiles, the legendary Fiat Zero. It was only in the late 1920s, after years working in his body shop, that he decided to invest in the automobile as a symbol of speed, movement, and modernity. The spark for this intuition and for the foundation of his company in 1930 came from an encounter with Henry Ford during one of Farina's US trips. Despite refusing Ford's offer to become chief designer of his company, the encounter with the American entrepreneur made an indelible mark on Farina, persuading him at a time when cars were still luxury vehicles for the elite that the automobile would become the product of the century. Farina's vision of the industrial impact of automobiles would materialize later after the release of Italy's first popular cars, the Fiat Balilla of 1932 and the Fiat Topolino of 1936. With regard to culture, Pinin's understanding of the car related instead to the futurist avant-garde. In the 1909 Manifesto of Futurism, Marinetti chose the car as the emblem of a new modern beauty, in his words, more beautiful than the ancient statue of the victory of Samothrace. Marinetti actually owned an Isotta Fraschini and even transfigured his own car accident in 1908 into the opening pages of his manifesto. More than fashion and novelty, he saw in cars the symbols of speed, thrill, and movement as key concepts of the modernity idealized by futurism. Moreover, at an aesthetic level, cars would also embody the futurist tension to construct sculptures in movement, the ideal to force to plastic forms a new art in constant motion and metamorphosis. Marinetti would return to this idea of realizing works of art which could dynamically move through space in the second phase of futurism in the 1920s, when he theorized aerial painting or poetry in connection with airplanes as an aerodynamic art in flight. Against this cultural background, Farina not only aimed at constructing his vehicles as sculptures in movement, but also started to relate his craft to modern methods of aerodynamic testing developed in relation to airplanes. With the opening of his factory in Cambiano near Turin in 1930, Farina reinvented bodywork as a plastic art, combining aesthetics and performance. With the start of aerodynamic experiments, Pinin developed the technological obsession to measure efficiency into a signature design, the pencil tip shape of his cars. Some examples of this technical and visual ability to give shape to speed are the 1935 Fiat 527 Ardita or the Aprilia Astura of 1938, which pioneered and patented the electric capote, the soft top. World War II interrupted the growth of the company. The Turin factory was destroyed by bombs. But after the war, production was revived, first with the launch of the Lancia Aprilia Velux, and then with the 1947 production of the Cisi Italia 202, which would become the world's first vehicle to enter the permanent collection of a museum, the MoMA in New York. It is at this time that Battista's son Sergio joined the company. Sergio was just out of college when, as we recalled, his father took him to Paris, or when he wound up being his mediator with Ferrari. Despite public skepticism surrounding this partnership, Sergio forged a potentially difficult collaboration into really a creative powerhouse. In addition to his managerial ability, Sergio also distinguished himself as a visionary engineer and a brilliant designer. He took on the company in 1961 upon his father's retirement, at a time when, because of his fame, the Italian president Giovanni Gronchi granted him legal permission to add the nickname Pinin to his last name Farina. Taking on the brand Pininfarina, Sergio led the company to worldwide success in the 1960s with inimitable models like the Alfa Romeo Giulietta Spider of 1962, the Fiat 124 Sport Spider of 1966, the Alfa Duetto of 1967, or the Ferrari Modulo of 1970, concept car which was awarded many international design prizes. After Battista's death in 1966, Sergio would stay true to and evolve his father's vision of the car as both an artisanal piece of craftsmanship and a technological symbol of modernity. On the one hand, he saw in a car body the equivalent of a dress, and in the work of a designer, the same gesture of the couturier, providing authorship, authenticity, and beauty to metal or fabric. On the other hand, he saw aerodynamics as a way to reduce consumption and enhance performance, and in 1972 he built the first Italian wind tunnel. Following on his father's intuition, Sergio Pininfarina saw the automobile as both a timeless thing of beauty and an expression of modern acceleration and speed, or rather, in futurist terms, as a plastic complex or a hybrid space of endless experimentation. The personal touch of Sergio Pininfarina consisted in his ability to combine elegance and innovation, especially in the prototyping phase, or rather in the tailoring of a product to the desired functions and the needs of the producer. His idea of innovating but not too much expressed his understanding of innovation as an art, combining the pursuit of variation with the quest to create a timeless style, or more simply put, as an irreplicable balance of beauty and technique. According to his philosophy, elegance is an integrated vision of style and performance, artistry and innovative impulse, harmony and functionality, purity of lines and aerodynamic advancement. In this sense, Pininfarina's pursuit of the perfect line can be seen as the realization of Marinetti's ideal of the plastic complex, of the work of art not just in perennial motion, but also in an endless state of radiance, brilliance, and livelihood. Ultimately, the success of Pininfarina lies in this endless styling of elegance. Starting from the laboratory of automobiles, this idea of elegance as a way to innovation would evolve in recent years into a much broader design project under the leadership first of Sergio and then of his son Paolo. Pininfarina continues to dress cars for Ferrari, Alfa Romeo or Fiat, but has also authored the design of whiskey bottles for Chivas, coffee machines for Lavazza, yachts, trains, including the Eurostar, and lastly, the Olympic torch for the 2006 Winter Games in Turin. As we discussed in the episode dedicated to Gaia Aulenti, the design of objects is intrinsically connected to the design of their surrounding space, whether social or architectural. In a way, Sergio Pininfarina made a profound impact on social life in the years before his death in 2012 as the president of Confindustria, the General Confederation of Italian Industry, as a lifetime senator in the Italian parliament, and as an example of Italy's unique approach to modernity, anchoring technological advancements in a humanistic tradition. In another way, his son Paolo reconfigured the brand as an architecture firm, with projects like the residential complex of Estepona on the Spanish Costa del Sol, the control tower for the new Istanbul airport, the Juventus soccer stadium in Turin, or the residential tower Cirela in Sao Paulo, Brazil, which was awarded the International Architecture Award in 2019. Even after the 2015 acquisition of the company by the Indian Mahindra & Mahindra, Pininfarina's recipe for success remains the same: an inexhaustible attention to give form to modern life, with pleasing and effective solutions, with timeless and trendy style. Even after becoming a global design firm with 7 branches on 3 continents, 2 Italian features continue to inform the company's unique model of excellence. First, continuity across generations, in the ability to transmit a depository of knowledge and constantly reinvent it. Second, versatility in different languages, partners, and sectors. From Ferrari to Lavazza and now architecture, Pininfarina's dynamic elegance of style and advanced solutions lies in the ability to tailor a product to the person and in dialogue with the cultural context. This is why lunch breaks can provide not just a moment of relaxation, but also invaluable insights for innovation and long-lasting partnerships. It all goes back to that day in Tortona in 1952. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to visit the official page www.italianinnovators.com and join the mailing list to receive notification of new episodes and updates about the show. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram for additional materials about the episodes. Thanks again, arrivederci e alla prossima.